What do you do when your world is turned upside down on what should be the happiest day of your life? When your first wedding anniversary ends with you in handcuffs, accused of stealing from your own mother-in-law? This is the story of Olivia Chin, a woman who was set up, humiliated, and left with nothing. But what she didn't know was that her darkest moment would become the catalyst for her greatest triumph. Stay tuned to see how Olivia took back control of her life, exposed the truth, and fought back with everything she had. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of resilience and empowerment. I never imagined that my first wedding anniversary would end with me in handcuffs, watching as my mother-in-law's smug smile grew wider while police officers dragged me away from my own home. But that's exactly what happened on what should have been the happiest day of my married life. The party was in full swing. Our backyard was overflowing with 50 of our closest friends and family, all celebrating under the soft glow of twinkling lights, glasses of champagne in hand. I wore my favorite red dress, the one Ethan had always told me made me look stunning. Everything seemed perfect until Eleanor, my mother-in-law, clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. "Everyone, I have something serious to discuss," she announced, her voice cutting through the noise of the party. Her usual false smile was gone, replaced by something colder, something far more sinister. My grandmother's diamond necklace, worth over $50,000, has disappeared from my room, and I know exactly who took it. My heart dropped into my stomach. Her eyes fixed on me, and the champagne glass nearly slipped from my fingers. The room fell into complete silence, and then, like a tidal wave, 50 sets of eyes turned to stare at me. This couldn't be happening. Not now. "Olivia!" she spat, her voice dripping with venom. "Return it now and maybe we'll forget about this unfortunate incident." Her words were heavy in the air, choking me, suffocating me. "What? I started to protest, but Ethan cut me off. "Olivia, did you take it?" His voice was colder than I had ever heard it. He didn't even look at me. "Mom's been telling me about things going missing for months." I didn't want to believe it, but are you serious? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Ethan, you know I would never—" "The police are already on their way," Eleanor said, pulling out her phone. "I called them an hour ago. I have proof." The rest of the night became a blur. The police arrived minutes later as the guests watched in stunned silence. They searched my purse, then my closet, as if I were some kind of criminal. And then, hidden in my jewelry box, they found it. Eleanor's necklace wrapped in one of my scarves. "That's not mine!" I screamed as the handcuffs were snapped on my wrists. "I didn't put it there, Ethan. Please, you know me." But Ethan just stood there with his arm wrapped around his mother as they led me through the party in handcuffs. Eleanor's satisfied smirk was the last thing I saw before the police car door slammed shut. What they didn't know was that this wasn't the end of the story. This was just the beginning. Tomorrow, I would return with something that would wipe the smug smiles off their faces for good. My name is Olivia Chin, and this is the story of how I lost everything on my first wedding anniversary and how I fought back to reclaim not only my freedom, but my entire life. Let me take you back to 2 years ago when I first met Ethan. I was 27, working as a Ethanating manager at a tech company in Seattle. Life was good. I had just bought my first condo. My career was taking off, and I felt like I was finally becoming the person I wanted to be. Ethan quite literally crashed into my life one rainy morning at Starbucks. He spilled his coffee all over my white blouse and spent the next 10 minutes apologetically dabbing at the stain with napkins. Looking back, I wonder if Eleanor put him up to it, but at the time, all I saw was this handsome 32-year-old software developer with kind eyes and a shy smile. "Please let me buy you dinner to make up for it," he insisted. One dinner turned into 3, then weekend dates, and soon we were inseparable. Ethan was everything I thought I wanted. Successful, gentle, funny. He'd bring me coffee at work, leave sweet notes in my laptop bag, and always seemed to know exactly what to say when I had a rough day. 6 months into dating, I finally met Eleanor. I should have seen the warning signs that first night. "Oh, you work in Ethanating," she said over dinner, swirling her wine glass. "How nice! I always told Ethan he should date someone in a more established profession. Like my friend Jessica, she's a surgeon, you know. Ethan just laughed it off. Mom, stop, he said, but there was no real firmness in his voice. That should have been my first clue. Despite Eleanor's subtle digs, Ethan proposed 3 months later. It was romantic, a private dinner on a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city lights. I said yes without hesitation. I was so in love, I ignored how quickly he wanted to set the wedding date. Just 2 months to plan everything. Ethan and I always dreamed of a spring wedding for him, Eleanor announced, taking over the planning before I could even open a bridal magazine. We'll handle everything, dear. Just show up and try not to mess anything up. The wedding was elaborate, all Eleanor's choices. My simple beach wedding dreams were replaced with a grand church ceremony, 300 guests I barely knew, and a reception that felt more like a society event than a celebration of love. But I kept quiet, wanting to make everyone happy. That was my biggest mistake. Things changed the moment we returned from our honeymoon. Eleanor started showing up at our condo unannounced. Just checking on my boys, she'd say, even though it was just Ethan and me. She'd rearrange our furniture, criticize my cooking, and somehow always managed to remind me that I wasn't good enough for her son. Ethan needs a proper home, Eleanor declared one day, just 3 months into our marriage. This little apartment isn't good enough. I found the perfect house in my neighborhood. Before I could even object, she had already scheduled the viewings. The house she chose was undeniably beautiful, a restored Victorian with a wraparound porch. But it was only 2 streets away from Eleanor's home. Ethan signed the papers without asking for my opinion. Mom knows best, he said when I tried to discuss it. Besides, she's helping with the down payment. We should be grateful. That house, although beautiful, soon became my prison, even though I didn't realize it at the time. Every decision, from the paint colors to the garden layout, had to be approved by Eleanor. She had a key for emergencies, which she used whenever she pleased. My space, my marriage, and my life felt like they were slipping through my fingers. Ethan just stood by, always siding with his mother and telling me to be more understanding. She's just trying to help, he'd say, as if that made it all okay. If only I had known then what I know now, that this wasn't just about them wanting control over my life. They wanted everything I had, everything I was. The anniversary party wasn't a celebration, it was the grand finale of their plan. The months leading up to our anniversary felt like watching a slow-motion train wreck. I could see disaster on the horizon, but I was powerless to stop it. It began with small things. My mail started disappearing bank statements, credit card bills, investment reports. When I mentioned it to Ethan, he shrugged it off. You probably just misplaced them. You've been so forgetful lately. But I wasn't forgetful. I'd been watching, noticing things like how Eleanor rifled through our home office when she thought I was in the shower, or how Ethan would have hushed phone conversations that abruptly ended when I entered the room. One Tuesday morning, I tried to log into my online banking account, only to find I couldn't. The password must have changed for security reasons, Ethan said, barely looking up from his laptop. I'll handle the bills this month. You don't need to worry about it. But I did worry, especially after finding a stack of documents in Eleanor's designer handbag one afternoon, papers with my signature on them. Signatures I didn't remember writing. Oh, those? Eleanor chuckled, her laugh sharp and dismissive when I confronted her. Just some house insurance papers Ethan asked me to drop off? Don't tell me you're becoming paranoid, dear. The gaslighting was constant. If I questioned anything, I was paranoid. If I stood up for myself, I was hysterical. If I tried to talk to Ethan privately, I was trying to drive a wedge between mother and son. My friends started drifting away, not that it surprised me. Eleanor had a way of making them feel unwelcome. Do you think those people are good enough to be in our social circle? She'd ask Ethan within earshot. They're so common. 2 months before our anniversary, I overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. I had just come back from the garden when I heard Eleanor and Ethan talking in the kitchen. Everything's ready, Eleanor was saying. The papers are all signed. After next month, she won't be able to touch any of it. Are you sure this will work? Ethan's voice was uncertain. Trust me, darling. By the time we're done, she'll have nothing. No money, no house, no reputation. Just like the others. Others? My hands were shaking so badly that I nearly dropped the flower pot I was holding. What others? I started researching, digging into Eleanor's past. It wasn't easy. She'd carefully curated her online presence, but late at night, in private browsing mode, I found things. Forum posts from years ago, stories about other women, other marriages, and other accidents where money and property mysteriously changed hands. Eleanor had done this before. The anniversary party was her idea, of course. She insisted on handling everything, the guest list, the catering, the decorations. I wasn't allowed to help with any of it. Just focus on looking pretty, she said with that cold smile. That's what you're good at, isn't it? The morning of the party, I caught her in my closet near my jewelry box. She didn't see me. I'd frozen in the doorway, watching as she carefully placed something wrapped in silk inside. I should have checked what it was. I should have confronted her then and there, but I was still playing by her rules, still trying to keep the peace. That was my last mistake as Ethan's wife, but it would also be Eleanor's biggest mistake in her long con career, because this time, she'd chosen the wrong victim. This time, she'd picked someone who wasn't going to disappear quietly. She didn't know that I'd been keeping records of my own. Every conversation, every missing document, every suspicious transaction, all carefully documented and saved in places they couldn't reach. As I stood in the police station that night listening to their accusations, I realized something. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out how strong you are. The holding cell was cold that night. I sat on the hard bench, still in my red anniversary dress, makeup streaked with tears. The other women there looked at me with pity and curiosity. One of them, an older lady with kind eyes, shared her tissue packet. "First time in here, honey?" she asked. I nodded, trying to hold back fresh tears. "My mother-in-law, she set me up." "Eleanor Winters?" The woman's voice sharpened. "Tall, always wearing designer clothes, fake as a $3 bill?" My head snapped up. "You know her?" "Honey, half the women in my support group know her. She's done this before, but nobody's ever been able to prove anything." That conversation changed everything. The next morning, after they released me pending investigation, I didn't go home. Instead, I went straight to the bank. My hands were shaking as I approached the teller. "I'd like to check my account balance," I said, sliding over my ID. The teller's face said it all before she even spoke. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen, but your accounts have been cleared out. All transfers were authorized with proper signatures yesterday afternoon." I sat there stunned as the bank clerk's words echoed in my ears. While I was sitting in jail, they'd taken everything: my savings, my investments, even my emergency fund. Over $200,000 gone. I stumbled out of the bank, barely making it to a nearby coffee shop before my legs gave out under me. That's where Sarah Chen found me. "You look like you could use this," she said, sliding a fresh coffee across the table. "I'm Sarah, former detective, current private investigator, and I've been waiting for someone like you." I stared at her business card through blurry eyes. "What do you mean?" "Eleanor Winters has done this 7 times in the last 15 years, she said with a sharp glance. "Marriage, theft, public humiliation, rinse and repeat. But she's never faced justice because no one's ever fought back." Sarah leaned forward. "But you," she smiled. "You're different. You kept records, didn't you?" I nodded slowly. "Everything's in a secure cloud drive. Photos, recordings, documents." "Okay, and I bet you never gave them access to your work laptop?" Another nod. My company laptop was still untouched in my office. "Then we've got them." Sarah's eyes gleamed with confidence. "I've got 2 statements from 3 of Eleanor's previous victims. They've been too scared to come forward alone, but together—" Hope flickered in my chest for the first time since the handcuffs clicked shut. "What's our next move?" "First, we document everything from last night. Then we contact my friend at the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit because this isn't just theft, it's a pattern of organized fraud." As Sarah outlined our plan, something shifted inside me. The fear and shame were still there, but now they were fuel for something else: determination. "One more thing," Sarah added as we left the coffee shop. "We need to move fast. Eleanor usually tries to sell her victims' properties within days of driving them out." My hands clenched into fists. Not this time. This time she picked the wrong woman to destroy. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Sarah moved me into a small motel, somewhere safe, while we built our case. The room wasn't much, but it became our war room. "First things first," Sarah said, spreading documents across the bed. "We need to prove the signatures on those transfer documents aren't yours." I opened my laptop and pulled up the photos I had secretly taken of the papers in Eleanor's bag. "Look at these dates," I pointed. "According to these, I signed over power of attorney while I was on a business trip in Chicago last month." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Can you prove you were in Chicago?" "Better," I smiled, pulling up my work calendar. I was giving a presentation to 200 people, live-streamed and recorded. That was our first break, but we needed more. I reached out to Janet, my company's IT manager. "Remember when you caught Eleanor trying to access my computer during that dinner party?" My hands shook as I typed the email. "I need the security footage." While we waited, Sarah made calls to her FBI contact. "The pattern is crucial," she explained. "Each case alone looks like a domestic dispute, but together it's organized crime," I finished. The next morning, everything started falling into place. Janet came through with the security footage, a clear video of Eleanor attempting to download files from my work laptop. Then came the bank records, showing a pattern of small transfers building up over months. But the biggest breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Maria, our housekeeper, showed up at the motel with a USB drive. "I knew something wasn't right," she said, hands trembling. "So I started recording their conversations on my phone whenever I cleaned. The things they said..." The recordings were damning. Eleanor and Ethan planning everything. How they'd chosen me for my assets. How they'd systematically isolated me. How they'd done it before. "Found it," Sarah announced late that night, staring at her laptop. 3 properties in different states, all sold under suspicious circumstances, all former wives. I felt sick, but focused. "How do we stop them from selling my house?" "Already on it." Sarah held up her phone. "My FBI contact is requesting an emergency freeze on all assets. They're building a RICO case." But we weren't done. Sarah had one more card to play. "We need to talk to the others," she said quietly. "Eleanor's previous victims. Are you ready for that?" The next day, in a private room at Sarah's office, I met them. 3 women, all with stories so similar to mine, it was scary. Abigail, Beatrice, and Camille. All were successful before they met Ethan. All were destroyed by Eleanor's schemes. "Nobody believed us," Abigail said, wiping tears. "Not the police, not our families." "This time will be different," I promised. "This time we have proof, but I need you to testify." They were scared. Eleanor had threatened them all. But seeing them find their courage, watching them agree one by one to stand with me, it was powerful. We worked through the night, meticulously piecing together our case. Every document, every recording, every shred of evidence was carefully organized. Sarah's FBI contact had been tracking Eleanor and Ethan's every move, ensuring they couldn't slip away. "Tomorrow," Sarah said as dawn broke, her voice calm yet resolute. "We end this. Are you ready?" I stood in front of the cracked motel mirror, staring at my reflection. The terrified, defeated woman from the anniversary party was gone. In her place stood someone unrecognizable, a woman who had found her strength, someone determined to fight back. "I'm ready," I said, my voice steady. "It's time to take back what's mine." The morning of reckoning began with a single, simple text message. Sarah had set up a meeting for Eleanor and Ethan under the guise of finalizing the sale of the house. "They're here," Sarah texted. "Showtime." As I walked into the lawyer's office, I held my head high, knowing exactly what was about to unfold. The smug satisfaction on Eleanor and Ethan's faces quickly faded into shock as they saw me. Eleanor's carefully crafted smile slipped, replaced by a thinly veiled sneer. "Olivia, dear," she purred, trying to regain her composure. "Haven't you caused enough trouble?" Before she could continue, the door opened and Sarah entered, flanked by 2 FBI agents, my lawyer, and the other women Abigail, Beatrice, and Camille. Eleanor's face drained of color. Eleanor Winters, one of the agents said, his tone firm. We have some questions about a pattern of fraudulent activities across state lines. I don't know what you're talking about, she snapped, her voice betraying the fear creeping into her eyes. And then we laid it all out. The forged documents proven fake through footage of the Chicago presentation, the illegal bank transfers traced back through detailed records, the security footage of her trying to hack my work computer, Maria's recordings, each one damning. But it was the final blow, the other wives. One by one, they shared their stories, detailing the same pattern, the same cruel scheme, and the same humiliating public betrayal. Ethan's face turned ashen as each testimony was read aloud. His voice trembled. "Mom," he said, looking at Eleanor in shock. "What did you make me do?" "Oh, shut up, you weak fool!" Eleanor hissed, venom in her words. "You knew exactly what we were doing. You're as guilty as I am." That was it, the confession the FBI had been waiting for. "Eleanor Winters, Ethan Chin," the agent announced, his voice cold. "You are under arrest for multiple counts of fraud, theft, and conspiracy." Watching them being handcuffed just like I had been only days before felt almost surreal. Eleanor was still screaming, spitting threats as they led her away, while Ethan stood there completely broken, the weight of his actions sinking in. "The house sale has been stopped," Sarah said to me afterward, her voice calm but resolute. "And with their confession, we can start the process of recovering your assets." As I walked out of that office, I felt the weight lifting from my shoulders. The fight had been long, but it had been worth every step. I wasn't just walking away from a nightmare, I was walking into a future I was finally in control of. But it wasn't over yet. We had one more stop to make. Later that afternoon, I stood in front of a press conference. Cameras flashed as I told my story. Our story. I wanted other women to know they weren't alone, and that they could fight back. "To anyone who's been victimized like this," I said into the microphones, "don't stay silent. Don't let shame win. Your voice matters. Your truth matters." The story spread like wildfire. News channels, social media, everywhere people were talking about the Black Widow mother-in-law and her years of scams. More victims came forward, and with every new revelation, the FBI's case gained strength. And me? I reclaimed everything: my house, my money, my dignity. But what I gained beyond all of that was something even more powerful: my sense of self, my power. 6 months later, I stood in my garden, planting vibrant roses where Eleanor's sterile, pretentious orchids used to sit. The house felt different now, lighter, cleaner, as if the oppressive weight of her presence had lifted with her absence. The trial had wrapped up just last week. Eleanor was sentenced to 15 years for organized fraud and conspiracy, while Ethan took a plea deal and received a 5-year sentence. More importantly, every single one of their victims had received justice. The FBI had tracked down and recovered most of the stolen assets from their offshore accounts. "You did it," Sarah said, handing me a coffee as I wiped dirt off my hands. Sarah had become much more than just the investigator who had helped me. She had become a true friend. "How does it feel?" I thought for a moment before answering, feeling the warmth of the coffee in my hands. "Like I can finally breathe again." My phone buzzed, another message from Abigail. Our support group for fraud victims was thriving, women helping women, sharing stories, finding strength in one another. Something beautiful had blossomed from all the pain, and that was the part that mattered most. "You know," I said, smiling as I looked around my garden, "Eleanor thought she was destroying me, but she actually set me free." The doorbell rang, signaling that my date had arrived. Yes, I was dating again, but this time it was different. No rush, no pressure, just an honest connection, with eyes wide open. "Going somewhere special?" Sarah asked, noticing my outfit. "Just dinner," I smiled back. "But this time, I'm choosing where we eat." As I grabbed my keys and headed toward the door, I caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the same one who had been handcuffed at her anniversary party. She was stronger, wiser, unafraid. Last week, I received a letter from Maria, our former housekeeper. She was in nursing school now, partly funded by the reward money from the FBI's case. "You showed me we all have the power to change things," she wrote. "That's the thing about hitting rock bottom. You learn who you are. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. And sometimes the worst day of your life turns out to be the beginning of your best life." My name is Olivia Chin. Yes, my first wedding anniversary ended in handcuffs, but that wasn't the end of my story. It was only the beginning. Today, I'm not a victim. I'm not just a survivor. I'm a woman who fought back, and to any woman out there facing her own Eleanor, remember this. You are stronger than you know, your truth matters, and it's never too late to rewrite your ending. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just getting even, it's getting better. What do you do when the people closest to you betray you in the most public, humiliating way possible? Olivia's first wedding anniversary ended in handcuffs, her mother-in-law's cruel scheme playing out before her eyes, with Ethan, her husband, standing by her side. What seemed like the happiest day of her life turned into a nightmare, but Olivia wasn't going to let Eleanor's deceit define her. She was about to reclaim her power, and the fight for her freedom was just beginning. After her humiliating arrest, Olivia took the first steps to reclaim her life. With the help of Sarah, a former detective turned private investigator, Olivia gathered evidence, documented everything, and found the courage to face her mother-in-law and husband head-on. As Sarah pulled together the pieces of Eleanor's past crimes, Olivia stood strong, determined to expose the truth. The moment Olivia walked into the lawyer's office, ready to confront Eleanor and Ethan, she was no longer the scared woman in handcuffs. She had become a force to be reckoned with. Eleanor's confession, along with the testimonies of her previous victims, sealed their fate. Olivia's bravery and determination turned the tables, and the truth came to light. But this wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. Olivia reclaimed everything she'd lost: her house, her money, and her dignity. But most importantly, she reclaimed herself. As she stood in her garden, surrounded by new roses and the beauty of her reclaimed life, she knew she had not just survived, but had risen stronger than ever before. To anyone facing their own Eleanor, Olivia's story is a reminder that sometimes the worst moments can lead to the most powerful transformations. What will you do when faced with your own betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more empowering stories.
The letter trembled in my hands as I read it again, my lawyer's neat handwriting doing nothing to soften the blow. Per the court's decision, Mr. Campbell retains partial access rights to the lakeside property. I crumpled the paper, my fingers turning white at the knuckles. My name is Phoebe, and my ex-husband just won the right to use my cabin, the one thing I fought hardest to keep in our divorce. The same cabin I spent 3 years renovating while he was busy building his new life with Rebecca. "You can't do anything about it," cried in court. Avery's taunting voice from yesterday's hearing echoed in my head. I could still see that smug smile spreading across his face as the judge announced his decision. My phone buzzed. "Speaking of the devil, just wanted to let you know we'll be using the cabin next weekend." Avery's voice dripped with false courtesy. "Rebecca's really looking forward to it. Oh, and Nicole's coming too." I gripped the kitchen counter. "Nicole, you're bringing your stepdaughter?" "Our daughter now, Phoebe, remember? Rebecca adopted her last spring." The room spun slightly. I hadn't known about the adoption. That's great," I managed. "Isn't it? We're finally a real family, the kind you never wanted to give me." The line went dead before I could respond. I grabbed my keys and jacket, needing to see the cabin one last time before they invaded it. The drive up was familiar, every curve of the road etched into my memory, like the growth rings of the trees surrounding my sanctuary. As I pulled up, the afternoon sun caught the new windows I'd installed myself, the deck I'd rebuilt board by board, the garden I'd planted with my own hands. "I thought I'd find you here." I turned to see Skylar walking up the path, her familiar red boots crunching on the gravel. My best friend knew me too well. How bad was it? She asked, joining me on the front steps. He gets it every other weekend, plus holidays. My voice cracked. And he's bringing them next weekend. His perfect new family. Skylar's eyes narrowed. That entitled bastard? After everything you put into this place? 3 years of work, every spare dollar I had. I stood up, pacing the deck. You know what the worst part is? He doesn't even want the cabin. He just wants to prove he can take it from me. So, what are you going to do about it? I stopped pacing. What can I do? He won the court battle. Skylar's smile turned mischievous. The cabin, yes, but what about the land around it? What do you mean? Well, I've been doing some research. The property lines extend way beyond the cabin itself, and there's nothing in the court order about how you use the surrounding land, is there? I felt a spark of something dangerous ignite in my chest. No, there isn't. And you know what this area needs? A community center, specifically a women's resource center. Skylar's eyes gleamed. Imagine Avery's face when he brings his perfect new family up here, only to find himself surrounded by the kind of independent, empowered women he tried so hard to control. I walked to the edge of the deck, surveying the clearing beyond the cabin. The space was perfect, visible from every window, impossible to ignore. It would take money, I said slowly. Resources. I know some people, including a journalist named Valentina, who'd love to cover a story like this. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Avery. BTW, having professional photos taken at the cabin next month for Rebecca's social media. Hope you don't mind. I showed Skylar the message and she laughed. Oh, this is too perfect. You know what they say about karma? That she's a patient bitch? Exactly. Skylar linked her arm through mine. So, what do you say? Ready to give karma a little push? I looked at the cabin, my cabin, and felt the weight of every dismissive comment, every manipulative move, every cruel jab Avery had ever thrown my way. Then I thought about Nicole, his stepdaughter, being drawn into his web of control. You know what? I smiled for the first time that day. I think it's time this place lived up to its potential, not as a weekend getaway for Avery's perfect family photos, but as something that actually matters. Skylar squeezed my arm. That's my girl. Let's make some calls. As we walked back to our cars, planning our first moves, I couldn't help but glance back at the cabin. Avery thought he'd won, thought he'd finally broken me. But he'd forgotten one crucial thing. I'd rebuilt this place from nothing once before. I could do it again. Only this time, I'd build something he couldn't touch. Look at this. Skylar spread the property maps across my kitchen table, her coffee going cold beside her. The court order specifically mentions the cabin and immediate surrounding area, roughly 50 feet in each direction. But you own 5 acres, Phoebe. I traced the boundary lines with my finger. And everything outside that 50-foot radius is completely yours to do with as you please. Skylar pulled out her laptop. I've been researching similar projects. There's a women's center in Portland that started in someone's backyard. Now they help hundreds of women start their own businesses. My phone lit up with a text from Avery. Need to store some jet skis at the cabin, making memories with the family. I turned the phone face down. So, what's our first step? Actually, Skylar typed something into her laptop. I already took it. Remember Valentina, the journalist who covered that corporate scandal last year? The one who made that CEO cry on camera? That's her. She's meeting us for lunch in 20 minutes. I nearly choked on my coffee. Today, Skylar, I'm not ready. You're never more ready than when you're angry. She closed her laptop. And trust me, Valentina's going to love this story. The cafe was busy when we arrived, but I spotted Valentina immediately. She had that journalist energy, alert, observant, already taking mental notes as we approached. So, Valentina said after introductions, Skylar tells me you're planning something revolutionary. I hesitated, but Skylar jumped in. Show her the text, Phoebe. I pulled up Avery's message about the jet skis. Valentina read it, then scrolled through the previous messages, her eyebrows rising. And this man, your ex-husband, he fought for access to a cabin he barely used during your marriage? He fought because he could, I said, because he knew how much it meant to me. Valentina leaned forward. And now you want to build a women's resource center around his weekend getaway spot? Not around it, I corrected. Beyond it, on land that's legally mine. A slow smile spread across Valentina's face. Tell me more. For the next hour, we outlined the vision. Workshops, business mentoring, skill-sharing sessions. A place where women could find support, resources, and community. But here's what makes it newsworthy, Valentina said, scribbling in her notebook. It's not just about revenge, it's about transformation. Taking something meant to hurt you and using it to help others. I have some contacts in construction, Skylar added. Women-owned businesses ready to help. We could break ground within weeks. Valentina's eyes lit up. And I know several successful businesswomen looking for meaningful projects to support. This could be huge, Phoebe. Just then, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo from Nicole, Avery's stepdaughter. She'd sent a picture of herself at some corporate event with Avery and Rebecca, looking uncomfortable in a too formal dress. Dad's making me intern at his firm, her message read. I hate it here. I showed the others the message. Perfect timing, Valentina said. We could include youth mentorship programs, give girls like Nicole alternatives to their parents' prescribed paths. Avery would lose it, I said, feeling a mix of satisfaction and genuine excitement. That's just a bonus, Skylar grinned. The real win is what this could mean for the community. Valentina closed her notebook. I want to break this story, not just about the center, but the whole journey, from divorce court to community triumph. It's the kind of inspiration people need right now. When? I asked. Let's time it right. When's your ex planning those social media photos? Next month. Perfect. Valentina's smile turned calculating. We'll have the foundation laid by then. Nothing he can legally object to, but enough to ruin his perfect family photos. And when he reacts, we'll be ready, Skylar finished. Back home that evening, I stood in my backyard, imagining the transformation to come. My phone buzzed with a group chat Skylar had created. Project Phoenix. Valentina had already shared contractor contacts. Skylar had drafted a preliminary budget. This was really happening. Another text from Nicole popped up. Dad's bragging about his plans for the cabin. Says he's going to make it actually worth something now. I thought about Nicole's forced smile in that corporate photo, about all the other women and girls trapped in lives others chose for them. Then I thought about Avery's face when he realized his victory lap had become someone else's starting line. Don't worry, I texted back to Nicole. Things around here are about to get very interesting. I added a phoenix emoji, smiled, and got to work on the permit application Skylar had sent over. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying something. It's about creating something better from the ashes. The local courthouse hadn't changed since my divorce proceedings. Same worn wooden benches, same stuffy air, same feeling of butterflies in my stomach. But this time, I wasn't here as a defendant. I was here to meet Judge Rolando for coffee. Phoebe. His familiar voice boomed across the lobby. What brings you to my neck of the woods? I held up the community center proposal Skylar and I had prepared. Actually, I was hoping to get your thoughts on something. As a pillar of the community, of course. Rolando's eyes crinkled at the corners. Flattery will get you everywhere. Let's grab coffee in my chambers. As we walked, I spotted Avery's new wife, Rebecca, leaving one of the courtrooms, looking flustered. She didn't notice me, but I caught fragments of her conversation on her phone. The property lines are so confusing, Avery. Are you sure? I smiled to myself as I followed Rolando into his office. So, he said, settling behind his desk with his coffee, what's this proposal about? We're planning a women's resource center, I explained, laying out the plans. Job training, financial literacy workshops, mentorship programs. The community seems excited. Location? My property up by the lake. Rolando's eyebrows shot up. The cabin property? The land around it, I clarified. Well, outside the court-mandated shared space. He studied the plans carefully, then looked up with a knowing smile. Interesting choice of location. It's perfect, actually. Peaceful setting, lots of space, easy access from town. And nothing in the previous court order preventing it, he added, tapping his finger on his desk. You know, community resource centers often qualify for special zoning benefits, reduced taxes, priority permits, that sort of thing. I tried to keep my voice casual. Really? Absolutely. In fact, he pulled out a folder. I just signed off on something similar last week. Here's the paperwork if you're interested in the precedent. My phone buzzed. Skylar had sent a photo of our first delivery of construction materials being unloaded at the site. Speaking of precedent, Rolando continued, there's an interesting clause about shared properties being subject to surrounding land use, meaning if the surrounding land becomes a designated community space, the shared property has to accommodate community access? He winked. You didn't hear that from me. Just then, his secretary poked her head in. Judge, your next appointment is here. It's Mrs. Campbell about the property line dispute. Send her in 5 minutes, Rolando called back. Then to me, better use the back door, unless you want an awkward reunion. I gathered my papers quickly. Thanks for everything, Judge. Don't thank me, he said. Just make sure whatever you're building helps people. That's the best legal defense there is. I slipped out just as Rebecca entered through the main door, clutching a stack of papers and looking worried. Back at the construction site, Skylar was directing a team of workers while Valentina interviewed local women who'd stopped by to see what was happening. How'd it go? Skylar asked as I approached. Better than expected. We might have more legal leverage than we thought. Perfect timing. Valentina joined us, recorder in hand. Because word's spreading fast, I've got 3 local business owners wanting to sponsor workshops, and the women's shelter in town wants to partner with us. And look who else showed up. Skylar nodded toward a car pulling into the lot. Nicole stepped out, looking around nervously before spotting us. I told Dad I was at study group, she said, approaching. Is it true? Are you really building a place to help women start their own businesses? Among other things, I said. Want to see the plans? Her eyes lit up as we showed her the blueprints. This is amazing. Dad's been pushing me to follow his footsteps in corporate law, but I really want to start my own graphic design company. We'll have workshops for that, Skylar said. Marketing, business planning, everything you need. Nicole's phone chimed. Her face fell. It's Rebecca. They're looking for me. Better go, I said. But Nicole, you're welcome here anytime. After she left, Valentina checked her notes. This is Gold, the stepdaughter of the man who tried to take your property, finding empowerment in the very place he meant to use against you. Speaking of which, Skylar pointed to an incoming email on my phone. Looks like Avery's lawyer just requested clarification about the property boundaries. I thought about Rebecca's confused face at the courthouse, about Nicole's dreams of independence, about all the women already rallying around this project. Let them ask questions, I said, watching the construction crew break ground. Every answer they get is just gonna make our foundation stronger. Rising from the ashes, local woman transforms divorce battle into community triumph. Valentina's headline blazed across the front page of the local paper. I stood at the construction site, watching women stream in for our unofficial opening day, the article clutched in dozens of hands. "This is insane," Schuyler whispered, surveying the crowd. "We expected maybe 50 people. There must be 200 here." The center had come together faster than we'd imagined. 2 buildings flanked the main courtyard, one for workshops and classes, another for office spaces and mentoring sessions. The cabin sat in the distance, looking small and insignificant compared to the vibrant community space we'd created. "Phoebe," Valentina rushed over, phone in hand. "The article's gone viral. 3 major news networks want interviews, and Rising Phoenix is trending locally." A commotion at the entrance caught my attention. Avery stood there, newspaper crumpled in his fist, face red with fury. Rebecca hovered behind him, looking uncertain, while Nicole lingered even further back, trying to hide a smile. "What is this?" he demanded, storming over and waving the paper. "You turned my property into some sort of feminist commune? Your property?" I kept my voice steady, aware of phones recording nearby. "The cabin's that way, Avery. This is my land, remember? The part you didn't fight for because you thought it was worthless? You planned this," he sputtered. "You deliberately built a community resource center that's already helped 30 women start their own businesses?" Valentina cut in smoothly, her recorder visible. "Would you like to comment on your opposition to local economic growth, Mr. Campbell?" Avery's mouth snapped shut as he finally noticed the cameras. Rebecca tugged at his sleeve. "Honey, maybe we should—" "No!" He jerked away from her. "This was supposed to be our family retreat, our perfect getaway. Look what she's done to it." "Made it perfect for a lot of families?" Nicole stepped forward, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. "Dad, they're offering free graphic design courses, real business training, not just corporate internships where I fetch coffee." "Nicole, get in the car," Avery snapped. Actually, Nicole pulled out some papers. "I signed up for the Young Entrepreneurs Program. I'm 16. I don't need parental permission." The crowd had grown silent, watching the drama unfold. Schuyler touched my arm, nodding toward a group of women approaching, the local business owners who'd sponsored our programs. "Mr. Campbell," one of them called out, "we've been looking forward to meeting you. Your ex-wife's initiative is exactly what this community needed. We'd love your thoughts on supporting young entrepreneurs like your daughter." Avery's face cycled through several shades of red as cameras turned toward him. Rebecca was already retreating to their car, but Nicole stood her ground, moving to stand beside me. "This isn't over," Avery growled. But the threat sounded hollow with dozens of witnesses recording. "You're right," I agreed. "We're just getting started. Would you like a tour? The workshop on toxic workplace dynamics starts in 10 minutes. Someone in the crowd snickered. Avery spun around and stormed off, leaving Nicole behind. "He'll be back," Nicole sighed. "Good," Valentina said, already typing on her phone, "because local lawyer opposes daughter's entrepreneurial dreams would make an excellent follow-up story." The rest of the opening day passed in a blur of introductions, workshops, and celebrations. Women shared their stories, made connections, signed up for classes. By sunset, we had a waiting list for most programs. "Look at this," Schuyler showed me her tablet. Local businesses were sharing Valentina's article, pledging support. The mayor had tweeted about visiting next week. Even the Chamber of Commerce wanted to get involved. "We did it," I breathed, watching the last visitors leave for the day. "We actually did it. Did you see this part?" Schuyler scrolled through comments under the article. "Someone started a fundraiser to replicate the program in other cities. It's already at $50,000. My phone buzzed. A message from Rebecca. "I'm sorry about today. Nicole won't stop talking about the design courses. Is it okay if I drop her off tomorrow? Before I could respond, another message came through, from Avery's lawyer this time, regarding recent developments at the lake property. Delete it, Skylar advised. Let them file whatever they want. We've got Judge Rolando's blessing and the whole community behind us. I looked out over the center, our phoenix, risen from the ashes of a bitter divorce. String lights twinkled in the gathering dusk, and through the cabin's windows, I could see Avery's perfect family photos would now have an unexpected backdrop. You know what? I smiled, deleting the lawyer's message without reading it. I think the view from here is just perfect. Dad's losing it, Nicole announced, dropping her laptop bag on my desk at the center. He spent 3 hours on the phone with his lawyer yesterday, trying to find a way to shut this place down. I looked up from the workshop schedule I was organizing. And Rebecca finally stood up to him. Nicole's face broke into a grin. She said if he keeps fighting this, she'll look like the evil stepmother trying to crush her daughter's dreams. It was epic. A knock at the door interrupted us. Rebecca herself stood there, looking uncomfortable but determined. I hope I'm not interrupting, she said. Nicole left her design tablet at home, and I thought. She held up the device, then glanced around the office. This is not what I expected. Want a tour? I offered, surprising myself. Rebecca hesitated, then nodded. As we walked through the building, women greeted us warmly, showing off their projects. In the main workshop space, a group was practicing pitch presentations for potential investors. All these women are starting businesses? Rebecca asked. Or expanding existing ones, or learning new skills? I pointed out various activities. That group is coding. Those women are working on marketing plans. The art studio upstairs is where I'm heading, Nicole cut in, grabbing her tablet. We're designing logos today. After Nicole bounded up the stairs, Rebecca turned to me. I need to apologize. When Avery told me about this place, he made it sound like I was just trying to spite him. Yes, she twisted her wedding ring. But this morning, he was ranting about destroying your little project, and all I could think about was how Nicole's eyes light up every time she talks about her classes here. A commotion at the entrance drew our attention. Avery burst in, his face stormy. Rebecca, Nicole, what are you doing here? He spotted me. You're turning my family against me? Lower your voice, Rebecca said firmly. We're in a public space. Public space? Avery laughed bitterly. This is my property. Actually, a familiar voice rang out, it's not. Judge Rolando stepped in from the parking lot, followed by Valentina and her camera crew. I was just stopping by to see how our newest community center was doing. Having a pleasant family discussion, are we? Avery's face paled. Your Honor, Save it. Rebecca's voice was steel. I saw the original property documents, Avery, the ones you tried to hide from your lawyer. You never had any claim to this land, only the cabin. You went through my files? Someone had to. You're so obsessed with hurting your ex-wife that you can't see what you're doing to your own daughter. The workshop participants had stopped their presentations, watching the scene unfold. Valentina's camera whirred quietly. Nicole needs to focus on her future, Avery insisted. Corporate law is your dream, not hers. Rebecca stepped closer to him. I've watched you try to control everything and everyone around you, just like you did with Phoebe. I didn't see it before, but I do now. Mom? Nicole called from the stairs. Everything okay? Everything's fine, honey, Rebecca answered, not breaking eye contact with Avery. Your father was just leaving. Like hell I am. Nicole, get your things. We're going home. No. Nicole descended the stairs, clutching her design portfolio. I have a presentation in 10 minutes. Potential clients are coming to see my work. Clients? Avery scoffed. This isn't a real business. Actually, Judge Rolando interjected, according to the business licenses filed this morning, it very much is. Congratulations on your daughter's entrepreneurial spirit. Will you be staying to support her presentation? Avery looked around at the witnesses, the camera, his daughter's defiant stance, his wife's resolute expression. For the first time, I saw his perfect facade crack completely. This isn't over, he muttered, but the threat sounded weak even to him. You're right, Rebecca said, because when we get home, we're going to have a long talk about your visitation schedule with Nicole, and your lawyer will be hearing from mine about those hidden documents. After Avery stormed out, Rebecca turned to me. I am so sorry for everything. Don't be, I said. You're here now. That's what matters. Mom, Nicole called excitedly. Want to see my portfolio before the clients arrive? Rebecca's eyes welled up at the word Mom. I'd love to. As they headed upstairs, Valentina approached with her camera crew. That was quite a scene. Mind if we filmed the young entrepreneur's first client presentation? Speaking of which, Skylar appeared with a stack of papers. 3 more businesses want to mentor our students. Seems someone leaked Avery's meltdown on social media. I looked around at what we'd built. Not just the physical space, but the community within it. Women supporting women, dreams taking flight, truth coming to light. You know what? I smiled. I think we should give them something worth sharing. He's planning something, Skylar warned, showing me her phone. On the screen was a social media post from Avery announcing a family-friendly lakeside gathering at the cabin this weekend, the same day as our center's first graduation ceremony. Of course he is, I sighed, watching volunteers set up chairs in the courtyard. He can't stand that we're celebrating without him. Valentina rushed over, press badge swinging. You need to see this. He's invited half the town's elite, old money families, business leaders, even the lieutenant governor. Can he do that? One of our graduating entrepreneurs asked, pausing her decoration efforts. The cabin? Yes, the grounds. I smiled. Absolutely not. And our graduation ceremony has all the proper permits. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Heads up, he's hired photographers and a catering company. Says he's going to show everyone what the property should really be used for. Perfect, Valentina grinned, because I just confirmed that 3 major networks are covering our graduation. Seems they're interested in the small-town success story that's inspiring similar centers across the country. The day of the event arrived bright and clear. Our graduates gathered early, practicing their presentations and arranging their business displays. Nicole had designed the ceremony programs, her new company logo proudly displayed on each one. Then Avery's guests started arriving. This way to the lakeside gathering, his hired staff directed them, only to be met by our own volunteers. Welcome. The community celebration is right this way. Would you like to see our graduates' business showcases? Avery appeared, practically sprinting across the lawn. No, the event is at the cabin. Actually, the lieutenant governor called out, stepping from her car, I'm here for the graduation ceremony. These women's success stories are exactly what our state needs right now. But I invited you to what? She asked pointedly. A private party while your community celebrates economic empowerment? I think I'm exactly where I need to be. More guests arrived, and despite Avery's increasingly desperate attempts to direct them to his gathering, they gravitated toward the excitement of the ceremony. His catering staff stood awkwardly by the cabin, watching their potential clients sample the graduates' homemade refreshments instead. Dad's about to blow a gasket, Nicole whispered, adjusting her presentation booth. Her graphic design display had already attracted several potential clients. Rebecca approached, camera in hand. I got everything on video. His face when the lieutenant governor walked past him? Priceless. Everyone, please take your seats, Skylar announced. The ceremony is about to begin. Avery made one last attempt, grabbing a microphone from his hired DJ. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could direct your attention to... The feedback from his mic squealed, making everyone wince. In the silence that followed, Judge Rolando's voice rang out clear and strong. As the keynote speaker for today's graduation, I'd like to welcome everyone to this celebration of community achievement. The crowd applauded, drowning out Avery's protests. One by one, our graduates took the stage, sharing their success stories. A domestic violence survivor who'd started a security consulting firm. A single mother whose catering business was now serving major events. Nicole, the youngest graduate, whose design company had already landed 3 corporate clients. "This is illegal," Avery hissed, storming up to me. "You're disrupting my event." "Actually," Valentina stepped in, camera rolling, "according to the permits filed with the city, this graduation ceremony is the only registered event today. Would you like to explain why you're attempting to interfere with a sanctioned community celebration?" His face reddened. "I have rights to this property." "To the cabin," Judge Rolando corrected, joining us, "which, by the way, your guests seem to have little interest in visiting. Fascinating how people gravitate toward genuine community spirit over, what was it you planned, a photo opportunity?" "You planned this," Avery accused me. "Set this up to humiliate me." "No, Avery," Rebecca said, still filming. "You did that all on your own." He looked around wildly, at his abandoned catering, at his ignored cabin, at the crowd enthusiastically supporting the very thing he'd tried to destroy. Then he spotted Nicole on stage, confidently presenting her business plan to potential investors. "She's 16, he whispered. "She's supposed to be following in my footsteps." "She is," I replied softly. "She's building something meaningful, just not in your shadow." The lieutenant governor's applause led a standing ovation for Nicole's presentation. Avery stood frozen, watching his perfectly planned power play crumble as his daughter soared. Sometimes I realized the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's dreams. It's about helping others build better ones. "Breaking news," the TV anchor announced. "Local lawyer faces ethics investigation following viral video of attempted disruption at women's empowerment event." I muted the television as Skylar burst into my office, waving her phone. "Have you seen the numbers? Nicole's video has over 2 million views." The clip showed Avery's meltdown from every angle. Guests filming as he tried to shut down our graduation ceremony, his face contorting as the lieutenant governor praised our program. His final desperate attempt to drag Nicole off stage during her presentation. "How's she doing?" I asked. "Better than her dad." Skylar pulled up another news article. "The State Bar Association's investigating him for those hidden property documents, and Rebecca's divorce lawyer called. She wants to know if we'll testify about his behavior at the ceremony." My phone lit up with a text from Nicole. "Dad's firm put him on leave. He's been drinking since morning. Mom and I are staying at a hotel." Before I could respond, Valentina rushed in. "You need to see this. He's here." Through the window, I spotted Avery stumbling across the parking lot, tie askew, clutching what looked like legal papers. "Should I call security?" Skylar reached for her phone. "No," I said, watching him weave toward the entrance. "Let's end this properly." He burst into my office, reeking of expensive scotch. "Happy now? My firm suspended me. My wife left. My own daughter won't answer my calls." "You did that yourself, Avery." "Like hell I did." He slammed the papers on my desk. "You orchestrated all of this, turned my family against me, destroyed everything I built." "Built?" I stood up slowly. "You mean controlled. There's a difference. I gave them everything, the best schools, the best opportunities." "The best cage?" Valentina stepped forward, camera already rolling. Would you like to elaborate on that statement? Avery spun around, finally noticing our audience. Staff members had gathered in the hallway. Through the window, I could see Rebecca's car pulling up, Nicole in the passenger seat. You're filming this? Of course you are. He laughed bitterly. Everything's a publicity stunt for your little feminist revolution, isn't it? Actually, Judge Rolando's voice came from the doorway. I asked them to record this. Given your recent behavior, I thought it prudent to document any further incidents. Avery's face drained of color. Your Honor, Save it. Rebecca entered, Nicole close behind her. The lawyer's waiting, Avery. Either sign the divorce papers now, or we do this the hard way. Divorce? His voice cracked. Baby, we can work this out. Once I shut down this place, that's enough. Nicole stepped forward. Mom, show him. Rebecca pulled out her phone, playing a video of Avery ranting in his home office. I'll destroy everything she built. I don't care about the cabin. I just wanted to hurt her like she hurt me. When did you? Last week, Rebecca said coldly. Right after you threatened to cut off Nicole's college fund if she kept attending classes here. The room fell silent. Even Avery seemed to deflate, staring at the divorce papers on my desk. You know what the worst part is, Dad? Nicole's voice was steady. I actually built something here. My design company has real clients. I'm making my own money. But you're so obsessed with controlling everyone that you can't even be proud of me. I was trying to protect you, he whispered. From what? Success? Independence? Because that's what this place gives us. That's what Mom found here. That's what Phoebe built. Avery looked around at the witnesses, the cameras, the success stories lining my office walls. Finally, he looked at me. You won, he said quietly. No, Avery, they won. I gestured to Nicole and Rebecca, to the women watching from the hallway. They chose freedom over fear, growth over control. That's not winning, that's living. He picked up the divorce papers with trembling hands. I never meant. Yes, you did, Rebecca said. That's why we're here. After he signed, Judge Rolando took the papers. I'll file these myself. And Avery, consider this a formal warning about approaching this property again. As security escorted him out, Nicole turned to me. Thank you, not just for the business classes, but for showing us we had a choice. Rebecca wiped her eyes. We both needed to see that. Through the window, I watched Avery's car disappear down the drive. The cabin stood in the distance, no longer a symbol of loss, but a reminder of transformation. So, Valentina smiled, checking her camera. Ready to announce the center's expansion plans? I looked at Nicole, already pulling up design concepts on her tablet, and Rebecca, standing tall without Avery's shadow looming over her. Actually, I said, I think we're just getting to the good part. And with this ribbon cutting, the Lieutenant Governor announced, we officially opened the Phoenix Network's 10th location. The crowd erupted in applause as Nicole stepped forward with her custom-designed scissors. The renovated warehouse before us bore her company's logo, a rising phoenix wrapped around the words, Rise, Rebuild, Reclaim. Hard to believe this all started with a cabin dispute, Skylar whispered, squeezing my hand. Speaking of which, Valentina nodded toward the parking lot, where a familiar car had just pulled up. Avery stepped out, sober and subdued in a plain business suit. He'd called last week, asking permission to attend. After consulting with Nicole and Rebecca, I'd agreed. Dad came, Nicole said softly, joining us after the ceremony. He actually came. Rebecca adjusted her event coordinator badge. She'd taken over managing our expansion projects after the divorce. He's been attending therapy, even joined a men's accountability group. I know, I said. He called to apologize. Actually apologize, not just perform for an audience. Avery remained at the edge of the crowd, watching as Nicole led tours of the new facility. Each room showcased a different success story. Women who'd graduated from our program and started their own businesses. Should we? Rebecca hesitated. Should we invite him in? Before I could answer, Judge Rolando approached Avery. Their conversation was brief, but I saw Avery nod several times, his shoulders relaxing slightly. The judge suggested he join the center's Male Allies program, Schuyler explained. Help other men understand what toxic control looks like. Nicole broke away from her tour group and walked over to her father. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I saw her hand him a business card. Her business card. She's teaching him how to build a website, Rebecca said, for his new private practice. No more corporate law. Inside, the celebration continued. Women shared their stories of transformation, of breaking free, of building something new. The cabin photos hung in a special display, where it all began, next to pictures of our growing network of centers. Phoebe? Avery's voice was quiet behind me. Could we talk? I turned to find him holding one of Nicole's program brochures. Of course. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he said, choosing his words carefully. About control, about power, about what I tried to take from you, from Rebecca, from Nicole. And I was wrong. Not just about the cabin, but about everything. I thought success meant making everyone follow my path. But looking at what you've built here, he gestured to the bustling center. This is real success, creating space for others to grow. It's not too late to create that kind of space in your own life, I said. He nodded slowly. That's why I'm here. I'd like to volunteer. Learn how to support instead of control. If you'll have me? Before I could respond, Nicole appeared with her tablet. Dad, want to see the website mock-ups? I've got 3 options for your new practice. The focus is on collaborative law and mediation. As they walked away, Rebecca joined me. Think he's really changed? I think he's trying, I said, and that's a start. Schuyler called everyone to attention. Time for the big announcement. Valentina stepped up with her camera crew as I took the podium. Around me stood our graduates, our supporters, our growing community. Even Avery listened intently from his corner. When we started this journey, it was about reclaiming space, both physical and emotional. Today, I'm proud to announce that the Phoenix Network has been chosen for a national grant. By this time next year, we'll have centers in 50 cities across the country. The room exploded with cheers. Nicole hugged her father, who looked genuinely proud. Rebecca wiped away tears as she coordinated with her event staff. But more importantly, I continued, we're launching a new program. The Phoenix Partnership Initiative will help other women transform their own spaces of loss into centers of community power. Judge Rolando raised his glass. To rising from the ashes. To rising from the ashes, the crowd echoed. Later, as the celebration wound down, I stood in the courtyard of our original center. The cabin was visible through the trees, no longer a symbol of what I'd lost, but a reminder of what we'd all gained. Ready to go? Schuyler called. The Portland Center needs our input on their renovation plans. I looked around one last time, at Nicole teaching her father about digital marketing, at Rebecca confidently directing her staff, at all the women who'd found their wings here. You know what? I smiled. I think we're all exactly where we need to be.